The janitor's cart squeaked down the polished hallway of St. Mary's Hospital, the smell of antiseptic hanging in the air. Daniel worked the night shift. Quiet, empty halls suited him. Since his little daughter Lily had passed away 2 years ago, he didn't talk much. He came, worked, and left. That evening, as he mopped the pediatric wing, Nurse Clara called out softly, "Hey, Daniel, have you seen the new girl in room 213? She's something special." Daniel frowned. New patient. Clara nodded. Yes, a deaf girl. She's been here for months, no family visits. She paints all day. You should see her work, it'll break your heart. Daniel shrugged politely. I'll clean her room later, he said quietly, but the truth was he avoided patients. The less he felt, the easier it was to survive. A few hours later, when most of the hospital lights dimmed and only the soft beeps of machines remained, Daniel pushed his cart into room 213. The girl was there, small, pale, with dark hair tied in a loose ponytail. She sat by the window, brush in hand, painting. He paused. On the canvas was the face of a little girl, bright smile, curly hair, and a yellow butterfly perched on her shoulder. His mop slipped from his hands. The girl in the painting looked exactly like his daughter, Lily. His heart stopped. He stepped closer, whispering, Where did you see her?" The deaf girl turned, startled by his movement, then smiled shyly. She picked up her notepad and wrote, "She visits me in my dreams. She says her daddy works here." Daniel's knees weakened. He gripped the cart for balance. His lips trembled, eyes filling with tears he'd buried for 2 long years. "My daughter, she's gone," he whispered, almost to himself. The girl tilted her head, confused. She pointed to the painting again and wrote, "No, she's not gone. She's always with you. She said your tears make her wings heavy." Daniel's voice broke into a sob. He covered his face, shaking. He hadn't cried since Lily's funeral. The girl reached out, gently placing her hand over his. Her touch was soft, warm, and full of something Daniel hadn't felt in years, peace. Over the next few nights, Daniel found reasons to stop by room 213. Sometimes he'd just empty the trash. Sometimes he'd bring her juice or extra paper. Her name was Emily. She couldn't hear a sound, but her eyes spoke more than words ever could. She showed him sketch after sketch, scenes of light, laughter, and a little girl with butterflies around her. Every time Daniel saw Lily's smile in those drawings, he felt both pain and comfort. Once Emily drew something new, a man holding a child's hand near a lake. When Daniel saw it, his breath caught again. That lake existed. It was where he and Lily used to go fishing. He whispered, "How do you know this place?" Emily scribbled quickly. "She showed me last night. She said, 'Tell my daddy to go there again. I miss the sound of his laugh.'" Daniel broke down right there. He dropped to his knees beside her bed, clutching his chest as tears spilled freely. "God, I thought I lost her," he whispered. Emily smiled sadly, tears glistening in her own eyes. She couldn't hear his words, but she understood his heart. Weeks passed, and Daniel began to change. He smiled more. He started bringing flowers to the pediatric wing. The other nurses whispered about how the quiet janitor suddenly seemed alive again. One evening, he came into room 213 holding a small box. Inside was a music locket, a broken one he used to play for Lily every night. He showed it to Emily, gesturing with his hands. This was hers. She touched it gently, then picked up her brush and painted a picture of the same locket, whole and glowing. Beneath it, she wrote, "She said she hears it from heaven." Daniel stared at the canvas through blurred vision. For the first time, he smiled without pain. "Thank you," he whispered. Then one morning, chaos swept through the hospital. Daniel arrived early to find doctors rushing into Emily's room. He dropped his mop and ran. Through the glass window, he saw her body shaking, monitors screaming. Nurses tried everything, but Daniel's world blurred. After what felt like hours, the sound flatlined. Emily was gone. He stood frozen, the hall spinning. When they finally let him inside, he found a small envelope on her table. His name was written in shaky letters. For Daniel. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a final drawing. 3 figures stood in a field of yellow butterflies: Emily, Lily, and him. Underneath, she had written, "She says thank you for smiling again. Now we can both rest." Daniel sank into the chair, holding the paper to his chest. Tears streamed down his face, but for the first time, they weren't only tears of pain, they were tears of peace. He whispered, "You two found each other." Months later, the hospital opened a small art room in Emily's memory. On its main wall hung her last painting, the one of Daniel, Lily, and Emily surrounded by yellow butterflies. Every night before his shift ended, Daniel would stand before that painting, press his hand against the frame, and whisper, "Good night, girls." And sometimes, just sometimes, the locket in his pocket would chime softly, even though it had no batteries. He didn't question it anymore. Because deep down, he knew, his little girl and the one who painted her were both free now. And love, somehow, had found a way to live on through silence, through art, and through a janitor who finally learned to smile again.